Hey YouTube, Ed here again. Just wanted to go over a little something today. I have started turning wood handles on fishing rods. I had the lathe, and it was something I felt to bring my rods to the next level. I felt turning them out of wood was it. There's other guys out there doing it, and I thought, you know what, it might be kind of fun to try. So I've actually turned one fishing rod handle out of wood, but I'm not here to do a tutorial on how to turn or anything like that, because there's guys out there that are doing a whole way better job of that than I am. I am way too new and I am way too unskilled to even try to present any kind of instructional video on how to turn. Which brings me to a big shout out to guys like Mike Walt, Robbie the wood turner, a few guys like that out there who are doing wood turning and producing some really good stuff out there. Mike in particular, Mike, I tell you what, I watched every one of your videos. I hadn't turned a piece of wood. I was just absolutely fascinated by the work that you do. It's just fun to watch you turn. So a big shout out to you for that, and I am placing all the blame for this on you, my friend, because I would have probably never tried wood turning had I not happened across your videos. But anyway, so there it is to Mike. I appreciate it. What I am here to do is I'm here to discuss my lathe. For maybe somebody who's possibly looking at buying it, this is the pros and the cons of it. This is a small, light-duty, bench-top lathe. It's nothing impressive, and I just wanted to go over some of the pros and the cons of it, and just give you some information on it before you go out and buy one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the camera off, I'm going to move it, I'll turn it back on, and we'll discuss this piece of equipment right here. Alright, here we are. What we have here is a Central Machine brand 8x12 mini woodworking lathe, and it's mini. It's small. You can carry it. I can carry it with one hand if you get the balance right. I mean, it's obviously heavier down here on the motor side than it is on the bed side, but this is a small lathe. I bought this lathe for the sole intended purpose of turning cork handles for fishing rods. That was the only reason I bought it. And cork turns extremely easy, and you never use anything more aggressive than some heavy sandpaper or maybe perhaps a file. But it's not heavy duty work. So this lathe did exactly what I've needed it to do. I've owned this lathe for 2 years and it hasn't given me a lick of problems. It's been a top-notch unit for what my intent and purpose was for having a lathe. Actually, I'd never turned a piece of wood on it until just a few days ago. Again, Mike, that's your fault, just so you know. At any rate, lots of love. At any rate, so what we've got here is a Central Machine 8x12 mini woodworking lathe. I settled on this. I bought this at Harbor Freight. We have a Harbor Freight store here in my city. And I settled on this one. It was this one and the next size up, which I believe is their 18-inch bench top. I was torn between the two, and what sold me on this one is this control right here, and I'm going to move the camera over so you can get a better look at it. This control right here. This is a infinitely variable speed control for the speed of the lathe. Now, all the other lathes out there in this category, you have to change a belt. You have to move the belt on some pulleys to get different speeds. This one you don't have to do that. This one you simply turn a knob, this knob right here, to make it go faster. I shall demonstrate. Turn the lathe on, it spins. I turn the knob, it goes faster, it goes slower. And that's why I bought this lathe. The ease of how I can change the speed, and that's actually kind of important with cork. Sometimes you need to do things a little slower speed, sometimes you need to do things at wide open speed, and to constantly be going back and forth to change those belts, it's just kind of a pain in the butt. So that's why I bought this lathe. Turns out that translates pretty nicely over into the wood side, at least from my very minimal experience. It seems to work out really well. That is the whole reason why I bought this one. That, and it was $119. The other one was $199. The other one's a little more substantial. It's a little heavier weight. It's probably a little more powerful, but this one did what I needed it to do. The price was where I was willing to spend, and it had this variable speed control on it, which was key. So, what did I get? What did I get with the lathe? Well, let's discuss that a little bit. I got, of course, the lathe. It came with the tailstock. It came with the tool rest. It came with 2 different size rests right here. It came with a small face plate. It came with the quill for the headstock. It came with the wrench, the large face plate, the rod for holding the headstock while you change the face plates. It came with the, yeah, that's it. It did not, I'll say again, it did not come with this chuck. This chuck was an add-on. It was something I purchased after the fact solely for turning cork. Turns out, works pretty good for holding small pieces of wood for turning wood. The downside of this chuck is that it's, and this is kind of going off subject, it's not serrated and it doesn't hold the wood very well, so I still have to use the live center to kind of keep it in place. I've had it come out a couple of times and it'll wing that little piece of wood across the room pretty nice. But that chuck is a separate purchase. It's handy and maybe you'd have some use for it, but you can get it. And that's what comes with the lathe, and you know, of course, the books and everything else that goes with it. So it basically comes with everything save the chisels to turn wood, and of course the wood. So then what I did was, when I decided to do this, I actually had to dig all these things out because I just stuck them in a drawer and I'd never used them. And then I bought a set of chisels. This is a basic 5 chisel set. I bought it at our local home center here in town. I think they cost me $20 for the set. I got 2 roughing gouges, the 3/4 and the 3/8 roughing gouge. I got a curved scraper. I got an angled scraper. It's got 2 angles on it. I guess I don't even know what you call that tool. I use it. Works pretty good. And this skew chisel, and I am not going to lie to you, the skew chisel scares the bejesus right out of me. I don't even like using it. I do use it. I probably use it incorrectly, but I don't know, it just scares me. I've never had it dig in, I've never had it do anything bad, but I have seen what happens when you use the skew chisel incorrectly, and things can go bad pretty fast. Maybe after I watch a few more of Mike's videos, I might get up enough stones to try it on the real way. So at any rate, that's the lathe. So we'll go over some of the pros. The price point, of course, is very, very nice. It's $119 US plus shipping. I really like the variable speed control. That's a plus. I like the size. It's not hard to put away. It's pretty easy to find a spot for it. It's not terribly big. It's light. It's easy to move around. It came with everything you need. It's quiet. It doesn't make a whole lot of noise. In fact, let's turn it on. That's the slowest speed. That's wide open, and it is fairly quiet. I will also say it's smooth. There is there's the chisel, and almost no vibration to it at all. There's no vibration. You can even see the handle's not even wiggling. So it's smooth operation, it's quiet operation. For that, it's very nice. some of the cons. It's not a heavy-duty machine. If you're looking to do some heavy turning, this isn't going to do it for you. This is for light turning. You could, if you're going to get into bowl turning, you could maybe get away with a 5-inch bowl, maybe even a 6. It's 4 inches from the center to the bed, which means if you start getting your material in there that you're trying to rough to round, you can only put in about a 4-inch piece. So to actually get a bowl, you might end up with like a 4 or a 5-inch bowl. So it's not made for heavy duty work. I've actually been able to stop this thing while cutting. I've been able to put a chisel to it and stop the head from turning. So it's light duty. It's what is my, no, it doesn't even give a horsepower rating. It's 250 watt, 110 volt motor. It doesn't even have a horsepower rating. It's so weak. But saying that, if you take your time and you don't lean on the chisel, it'll cut anything you want it to cut. This is about a 2 1/4 inch piece of timber, which was that tree that I got out of the park, and I'll post a picture of it. That was about 3 1/2 inches in diameter when I chucked it up in the lathe and started raking all the bark and everything off of it. It'll do it as long as you don't lean into it. You just got to give it a little bit of love and back off it just a hair. It'll do what you want as long as you don't want it to do it too fast. The other, well, you know what? Oh no, there is one other downside. I'm not real wild about these tool rests, and here's why. When you're trying to make a straight cut, say I got my roughing gouge here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bring this closer so I can reach. When you got your gouge on here and you're trying to make a straight cut, and you got your finger up against the rest and you're trying to work across to get your nice straight cut like that, I find that this angle here will screw me up, because when I put my gouge on here to cut, my hand will want a tendency to follow the angle, and I won't be able to keep the rest right. I wish the rest was a little more upright. It didn't have this angle here. And what I might do is I might try and find a different rest for it. If I'm cognizant of it and I think about it, I can keep it one spot to make my straight cuts. But it's a little difficult. I'm not real excited about these rests. They'll do the job. They're just not top quality. Well, the whole thing isn't top quality, but they're just not the greatest. The other bad thing about this thread size, if you ever want to change the chucks, this is not your standard 1 inch by 8 thread headstock. This is a 3/4 inch by 16 thread. I am here to tell you that most of these lathes are 1 inch with 8 threads per inch. This being a 3/4, it is much more difficult to find attachments that'll screw onto it. I did find them. You have to find them online. They're out there. They're just not as readily available. The 2 or the 1 inch stuff is much easier to find. You can find the 3/4 inch stuff easily enough, and I know you can get adapters to go from 3/4 inch to 1 inch if you want to go that route. But the headstock is an odd size. With saying that, the tailstock and the headstock are not number 2 Morris tapers like most of the lathes in this class would be. They are number 1 Morris tapers. Much more difficult to find. Not saying it's not out there, but again, that's something you have to buy online. I have just recently ordered a Jacobs chuck for my tailstock so I can drill holes in these fishing rod handles and butt caps and stuff like that with a number 1 Morris taper. I had to go online, did find it. I found some on Amazon, I found them on eBay. They are out there. They're just not really the norm. I'll say that. Same with this 3/4 inch stuff. You can find it. It's just not on every shelf in every store. It's out there. Other than that, I'm real happy with the performance of the lathe. It'll cut wood. it'll cut wood just fine. In fact, give me just a second. I wasn't going to do this because I was waiting for the Jacobs chuck, but I'll do a quick demo on how it does cut. Let me just tap this out of here. There it is. So if I stick that in there, let me see, yep, I've had this in here before, so it's in there pretty solid. Yeah, it's not too out of whack. All right. I'll go with the large rest here. Okay, so I'm going to move this over because I don't want to have the camera in between me and the work. So I'm just going to use the small roughing gouge. I'm not going to get crazy on this thing. Like I said, this did start off as a tree, so I mean I started it off rough, and it did cut it. So you can see this thing has no problem throwing wood chips. It'll do it just fine. Now what I was saying about really leaning into it, I'm pushing pretty hard there and it didn't stop, so let's turn the speed up just a hair. Part of this is my chisel is probably pretty dull. It should be cutting better than this, but it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of problem making some sawdust. It'll certainly do it. Here's the beveled scraper, or the curved scraper, excuse me. See, there you can hear me, I'm bogging the engine down, or the motor down pretty good. And that's because there's more cutting area on there. I'm not going for any kind of shape here, I'm just showing you that it does cut. Here's the 3/4 inch roughing gouge. So you can see it throws chips just fine. Here's the other scraper. And here's the skew. Haha, not going to use it. It still scares me. At any rate, so it will make sawdust, and it'll do just fine. And you could hear that I was bogging the motor down a little bit. I had it running wide open there. But as you can see, it does cut, and it cuts just fine, and it does work. So when I get a little better, maybe I'll do a video or something on what I'm cutting and how I cut. But that's going to be a long time away. This is these are the first things that I've cut on the lathe here. This is going to be a foregrip on a fishing rod. This is the butt cap of the same rod, and then this will be the grip. I get it done, I'll maybe post some pictures on it, or maybe I'll do a video on installing these things. We'll see. But it's fun. If you've been hemming and hawing about it, I'd say give it a try. It's a good pastime, and if you don't mind making some sawdust, and you don't mind making a mess, it will certainly do that, and I have a lot of fun. Again, I want to say thanks to all those guys out there on YouTube who have done videos that have basically showed me that this is really nothing to be scared of. It took me a long time to get up the nerve to turn a piece of wood at a couple thousand RPMs and then jab a piece of steel into it and expect it to cut. So with that, I want to say thanks to all you guys for doing that. I appreciate it. It's helped me take the next step into my skill and my offerings and what I can do with what I like to do, and I appreciate it. So with that, I'll say thanks to all, and hope this was some information for you, and please, whatever you do, just do it safely. Have a good day.